No one is buying your vibe coded tool, guys. It's building tech on top of tools that people are already using. AI has just amplified your ability to build systems and infrastructure on top of it. But it hasn't replaced the fact that you need to build relationships with your customers. You should probably be the one picking up the phone. You might not want to have an 11 Labs voice calling all of your users. I would say build versus buy. Buy the primary tool, build the infrastructure and AI automation on top of the tool to make it much more advanced.
I want to basically answer 3 questions for the people, Brock, on our conversation. What should they be using AI for in their business? Like, what's a must? Should be they considering paid ads with AI? Just learn from the big no's of AI in the business. So we'll start a little bit about you. Why don't you introduce yourself and like, what's been your career like?
Okay, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time. So I started the paid media agency in 2019, started as a classic solopreneur, very service-based, scaled it up. I'm going super quick. Scaled it up to 6 people. We had 30 million spend under management, got acquired in early February 2024. So that was the lifespan of my agency experience. And then lots of clients in real estate, a little bit of insurance, lots of e-commerce D2C side. And we specialized in lead generation or D2C sales. So think Shopify stores.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. So right now you're going more, taking your whole business. After you close your business, you're leading into more AI world, rebuilding your agency. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So we exited for 2 reasons. The selfish reason is I had a 3-month-old and I was working like 14 hours a day. So super late calls.
Yeah.
I was spending a good amount of time in Europe, and that just led to like 10, 11 p.m. calls with a 3-month-old, which I couldn't really do. So we decided, you know what, that plus the financial reason was I saw the industry changing a lot from what was purely operators, like clicking buttons and pressing levers behind the scenes, to now a lot of AI enablement. So I thought it's the perfect time to exit high and then rebuild an agency from scratch with a lot of these AI tools already implemented, where you can fill individuals into systems, not just one particular role. So an example would be, I don't just hire somebody to write ad copy anymore, right? You hire somebody to manage an entire workflow from paid media through to conversion on the site, through to post-purchase sequences and what happens after. So owning a system and allowing AI to just make it significantly faster than what it was when we were just operators without AI.
You're really rethinking the roles. Like, you started Slate, you learned a lot on how to build it, what each role needs to happen in a ads agency, and then do you sit down and rethink, like, okay, I'm not gonna rehire the same people over again. How do I fit AI into it? How much can I take on, and when do you hire? Because I think that's something that a lot of people have been feeling and seeing in media. Oh, we can just basically reduce our overhead with the people that we have and replace them with AI.
Yeah.
But you still need people at the end of the day. A solo entrepreneur could maybe make $1 million, if everything's perfect. But in a bigger business, you need people. Like, how do you actually hire now? Do you check for different things?
Well, AI is still a tool that people use. It's not the person itself.
Exactly.
So even if you build workflows, you have to have a human that oversees the workflow, partially for accountability, but also because AI tends to hallucinate. You can convince Claude, OpenAI, Gemini, you can convince any model that your method of thinking is true, and it will hallucinate into reality and think that that is the case. It's not the case. So you need somebody to oversee the system, and I don't think that AI, especially in the agency world, is replacing people. I think it's just amplifying your abilities. So what used to take our team, I can give you a great example. We had a 15-part autoresponder sequence to an in-person sales event in Kitchener-Waterloo in 2022. And what took my team 2 weeks to build a 14-part email sequence and SMS sequence, I could now probably do in a day, half a day. At least get the skeleton of it down. So it makes you faster, but it doesn't replace humans, and you still need to have that oversight.
Now that you can build it all and you can vibe code it all, what shouldn't you? You started it from zero. Where did you draw the line? Did you draw the line? Did you cross it sometimes and overspend somewhere? I know I've built a couple CRMs and ended up saying, like, you know what, I'll stick to HubSpot, I'll stick to this. But
I think like everybody, you burn through thousands of dollars of tokens, figuring out that, you know what, there's a solution that already exists that's like 90% of what I want.
Have you heard of automation? It's been around a long time.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think it's really exciting to vibe code a product in a weekend and ship it and be like, this is what my team's going to use. It's perfect, it's customizable. But there's a lot of things that you don't consider, like especially in real estate, there's a lot of data compliance that you have to consider. There's a lot of cold outreach laws that you have to take into consideration. So I think it's better to, what I found, you can build your own CRM, but that's a business in and of itself, right? That's an entire software that you have to build and manage. It's a lot easier for two reasons to use a pre-built software like HubSpot. First, because as you continue to hire people and build your team, it's a platform everybody knows. You don't have to train somebody on an internal tool. There's no maintenance required on it because they're going to ship updates. You don't have to do it yourself. It's simply just a better use of your time to find a pre-built software like HubSpot that's already going to have 99% of the capabilities that you're able to produce, and then build AI infrastructure that feeds on top of it. That way you're not managing an entire database, you're not setting up OAuth and login and like a whole back-end system in Supabase, which can be pretty cumbersome unless you are an actual coder. But even then, it's probably more cost efficient when you simply look at a subscription versus the token usage to just find a platform. You're gonna use less time trying to build it yourself. And you can build amazing integrations on top of it. Like, I'm a big Notion user. So we have a whole data enrichment AI tool hosted inside of Claude, held in GitHub, that enriches all of our data that comes in. So all of our lead data gets enriched. We get a summary, we get their last couple LinkedIn posts, we get really, really personal details about everybody that comes in, which is important in real estate and really any sales or agency role. You have to understand who it is that you're speaking to. I would say build versus buy. Buy the primary tool, build the infrastructure and AI automation on top of the tool to make it much more advanced.
I think some of us will learn that the hard way, but it makes total sense. You're not gonna, if in the tool that you build, the app that you build, something breaks and you're not a coder and you don't understand what's going on, you'll never be able to reverse engineer it and find, and why should you? That's not your business.
Exactly.
So,
but you have some experience here, right? Like this is your operation, is understanding not just building a platform for somebody, but building tools that support it.
Exactly. So, I mean, I started building the system that I wanted to implement into real estate before implementing AI. So I built everything basically with automation, the hard way. Like, this has to happen, this happens.
Right, Zapier automation. It's a whole if-then sequence.
Exactly, all the way. And I wanted to take it a further step than just an email chain, right? Of nurturing somebody, a long nurture depending on, oh, I talked to this person, let me just check in, are you ready to buy, are you ready to buy? Same email always.
Sure, yeah.
So what I tried to implement is, before AI, documenting everything you can about that person. So manually, their mortgage, everything that you legally can, everything you can, so you can then segment them and nurture them with content that you create almost in that niche. Mm-hmm. So a lot of tags, this person lives in this area, in this neighborhood, this happened, they get automated with this piece of content that we generated in this neighborhood.
Very cool.
So that was my method of nurturing, saying like, it has to be a little bit better. Yes, it really helps when the real estate or the realtor or the brokerage is very niched and very segmented, but that took a lot of time to build out, to make sure it nurtures the right person, it sends the right people, the right content. But when AI came in, like you said, I just took all that stuff that I built on top, ran it through AI, and then it can just segment automatically. It can send a piece of content. If you tag the content, oh, we're talking about, first-time home buyers, we're talking about this neighborhood, we're talking about the pain point being price issue or, bad credit, and then this piece of content gets sent to the right person.
Yeah.
So it feels super customized. So just building on top of that's what AI opened up for the service that I implement.
Yeah, and it's a way better experience, because if you think about your conversion rate, right? If you were typically converting, 15% from email sign up to scheduled appointment, right? If you can tailor that content and you can bring that from 15 to 20%, your close rate goes up dramatically. Like, these small micro changes can have a huge impact on your sales team.
Because we're talking about trust, right? If you're talking, and that's always a difficult part, like how much do you automate, and picking up the phone and talking to somebody person is always the best.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
But like, how do it's the conversion rate drops as much as you automate, and that's what AI can help you kind of lift that conversion.
Yeah. So you asked me about AI in ads.
Yes.
Or AI in, real estate infrastructure. Where does it fit? Where does it not? I still think right now AI is a tool to piece together a lot of the button clicking that you're doing, but it shouldn't be apparent to your user or to the viewer that you are using AI to automate a whole sequence of events. So things like SMS follow-ups are great, email follow-ups are great, data enrichment in your CRM is fantastic. But on the ad creative, having boots on the ground and a human in your neighborhood that talks about the neighborhood is a lot better than an AI-generated character pretending that they're in Kitchener-Waterloo.
Yeah.
Right? It's a totally different experience.
It depends on the team and the realtor that you're speaking to, if they run ads, if they're tested ads. Where do you think is the line with your experience at running ads in real estate where it's a positive return should be implemented on a monthly basis? Is it a size of a team? Is it how much you invest a month? Like, what's the calculation that you do when you go into like, oh, you shouldn't be running ads, or you should be running ads if you're willing to invest or go down this rabbit hole?
Well, for any legitimate brokerage, you should always be running ads because there's always something, right? If it's an extremely cool market, there's a sales event or there's an educational component. If it's a really hot market, you're going after seller leads because you know the buyers are there. If it's a cool market, you're doing the inverse. For any legitimate brokerage of any size, I think it's good to be running ads. It probably, in my experience, the budget changes dramatically. So if we're talking, 2018, 2019, markets on fire. So then every brokerage, every realtor is running up their ad spend because you can afford to. A lot of the leads are going to flow in naturally. And it almost irregardless of the offer that you put out there. So if you have a 2-bedroom condo versus a townhome versus a single detached, the product matters, but it's not as important as the fact that you actually have a listing and there are so many buyers out there and everything's getting overbid.
You're just getting in front of the person.
Exactly.
And there's a transaction.
Now, when we look post-COVID, when we were advertising in 2021, 2022, the offer had to be really good. The incentives had to be really good. For anything that's pre-con, the amenities need to be amazing. So you need a lot more perks to try to bring somebody in. I don't know that it necessarily cuts your need to run ads, or you wouldn't want to stop advertising at all because then, a lot of your competitors in the area are just going to catch up. But the offer changes quickly in real estate versus something like insurance, which is a lot more stagnant.
When do you suggest run it yourself and hire somebody? Should it just be outcome based, or should they consider, oh, this person is implementing AI the right way? Or like, what's the calculation and the thought process for the person hiring an ads agency right now? Because I keep seeing all these new updates and everybody sees this like, oh, Claude now hooks up to your ads. This hooks up to your ads. Like,
yeah.
It basically, to me, the signals are like, oh, I don't need an agency.
Sure.
And even if you're like at enterprise level, you might start thinking that or rethinking that.
So let's bucket it. Let's go paid media, cold acquisition versus your systems and infrastructure and follow-up, because these are two different pieces. AI has just amplified your ability to build systems and infrastructure on top of it, but it hasn't replaced the fact that you need to build relationships with your customers. You should probably be the one picking up the phone. You might not want to have an 11 Labs voice calling all of your users. So the relationship piece is right there, or is still there, but there's a lot that you can automate. Now, if you've never set up a workflow yourself, you can try to use Claude Code, Codex, you can figure these tools out on your own, but there are people that have set it up already. So it might make sense to contract an agency, or at least a contractor that's a professional that has proven experience in this area. When we're talking about the paid media side, this has been the case for real estate for a long time. It's purely creative driven, especially now. So for anybody who doesn't know, Meta has a special ad category for housing.
Yes.
Right? This has existed inside of Meta, I want to say since 2017, like pretty much since as long as I've been doing this, there's been a special ad category. And you used to be able to sidestep it by not selecting it. But now, if Meta detects a picture of a sales sign or a floor plan or even the exterior of a building, it will flag it as a special ad category. And that means that you have no interest targeting. You have no gender or age targeting. You only have a location pin drop of 15 miles.
15 miles, yeah.
Which is fine, but it means that your creative has to do the heavy lifting. So your
segmentation needs to be done by the creative.
Exactly. Now, I think that could be a deterrent for some people, but the reality is Meta is so good at finding your target user and your target audience and who might be applicable for that product. If it's, first-time home buyer versus, a $3 million house on the outskirts of Guelph, for instance, totally different buyer. So your ad needs to clearly speak to the person that you are trying to go after and let Meta do the targeting for you, because it will get it right.
A couple of weeks ago, just for testing some creative, I ran something for older adults going to retirement residence, and literally within a day, I started seeing the right age group. It's just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, perfect.
Totally.
Perfect. So
totally.
what about if you step outside from real estate? from what you're doing in your business. Can you explain a little bit like the elevator pitch of what your business does and what kind of people you want to help?
What was purely a paid media play before, it was customer acquisition in our first couple of years. So everything paid on Meta. Then we brought Google in as a supplementary service. And then we brought email marketing in as a tertiary service. And then we brought in landing page optimization. So when we exited, we were essentially a full funnel agency for B2B lead generation and D2C consumer brands. There's still so much pressing buttons between that from individuals. And I think a lot of those button presses can be automated, not for the sake of getting rid of people, because the judgment doesn't change, but for the sake of being able to take on a larger subset of customers and being able to serve people at less of a cookie cutter blanket experience and more tailored towards the business. The speed of which you can deliver the service has changed. Not necessarily that the service is entirely different. I think of AI as like kind of like a really advanced Zapier, because you used to be able to, well, you still can, but we only used to be able to piece together if action A happens on one platform, action B happens on the second platform. But now there's intelligence inside of each of those layers. So if a user responds to a lead form, we can qualify them and figure out who they are as a buyer before we put them into an autoresponder sequence. So a lot of the service is much of the same, but the level of customization and the level of quality of content that the user gets on the back end is different.
Are you implementing all of it? Like, where do you draw the line of, because something that I've seen myself, like, yes, I can do a ton more. I have the capacity to even branch out to other industries, but how do you like to draw the line in, as in your focus and where you put your investment as the owner of the company? Because something that I've heard in other podcasts, and it just makes a lot of sense. Like, as the head of the business, your job is generating opportunities, right? And it shouldn't be staying up to 3 a.m. vibe coding.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because you should be doing the $5,000 job, an hour job, not the $50. You could hire somebody to implement a system. And a lot of the implementations of systems, they don't really push the needle sometimes. And adoption is slow. That doesn't change, right? What's your mindset around that?
It all comes down to documentation, but now that's even more important because it's documentation with intelligence. So I'll give you an example. When we were running our agency, when I was doing everything myself, because I think it's important to start doing it yourself before you hire out individuals. If I knew nothing about paid advertising, if I knew nothing about structuring a Meta ad account, I would be completely lost, and I would hire somebody, even the $50 an hour person, and I wouldn't know how to grade them on performance because I don't really know how to evaluate it myself. So I think learning the fundamentals is important. But beyond that, once you've learned the fundamentals and you're doing repeat tasks and you document it, then you can hand off the documentation to the individual so they are following your process. And now you have a standard set, so you know how to evaluate their job and what they're doing. But this is taken a step further with AI, because not only is it documentation, but it's documentation with a context layer. So it's AI understands what the steps are, and you can show the workflow to the person, but now they have an assistant that's going to help them go through the entire process. When do you hire versus when do you delegate? I think when you've clearly documented the role and you can hand it to somebody, now with the benefit of giving them an assistant with it too, like an AI assistant, that's when you can hand off those tasks. But I would just focus on one bottleneck at a time. This is what my experience was growing an agency. First, it was, do I understand how to fulfill on the service? Once we nailed that down, I hired my first full-time employee. Then it was, do I understand lead acquisition and retention of our clients? Because retention is more important than getting new ones, right? And then once we understood that, we hired a customer success rep, and then somebody to do sales. And then we broke it up from BDR versus SDR. You hire when you yourself know the role well enough to evaluate the person who is going to take your place.
If anybody's ever worked in marketing, they understand a lot of, and worked a small business, they understand that they've heard this enough by the owner. Well, you're in marketing, you should know what I need to do. It's like, I don't know your business enough, you know?
Yeah.
So like, yes, I know that in my career, like anytime that, I started video in 2019, I hired a crazy good cinematographer.
Yeah.
And I learned everything from him. Then a graphic designer, and I paid attention. I like to ask questions. Like, why do you do that? And why is that little E beside the logo? Oh, that's because the space is out. Like just everything. And then I understand, and I think that's why it's given me an edge, because now with AI, I understand enough to guide it, in different roles.
Yeah.
And I think that's the dawn of the generalist.
Yeah, dawn of the generalist is probably the overarching term of AI, because, you know, I work with another agency. I was contracting for him post-exit. He wanted to know how we went about the acquisition process and how we structured the sale. And he asked me to help set up the infrastructure that made that possible. Because when we exited in 2024, I think the best AI model was like ChatGPT 3.5.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a lot of AI, but I had a lot of tools and infrastructure where I really wasn't doing anything day to day in the business by the time we exited. And a lot of that came down to proper documentation. Yeah, dawn of the generalist, the more specific information you have about a task that you can put into an LM, like a language model, you give that context layer to your AI, that's what will give you better responses and better output than somebody who signs up to ChatGPT and just says, run a real estate ad for me, right? Like it's the information in your head. Or in your design example, if you don't know the terminology for tracking, kerning, spacing, you're gonna say, why is the E and N overlapping? But you can say, well, the kerning on this word is off, you need to increase it. So like your understanding, your real world understanding about specific topics is what makes the AI work for you, rather than just hallucinate answers and you know, say that you're right even when you might not be. Okay, so you've been doing this for a long time, use every AI tool, probably every software in the book. What's your toolkit right now? What do you recommend?
Honestly, what you're using now. I introduce tools constantly to people and they don't use them. And then they're paying that monthly.
Yep.
You know, it's like for the longest time, $1 million+ couple that I was working with in real estate running off of Excel. And it was like, well, we want to implement HubSpot.
Yep.
Not HubSpot, sorry. Follow-up boss. Because everybody's recommending it. It's like, okay, it's going to be this much and stuff, done, don't use it. So, and most people are still using AI, everybody says it, and it's true, for emails. Like, oh, can you rewrite this to make it fancier, sound professional?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's tough to just list off a bunch, because I know, at least in the segment that I'm in, realtors are so busy that implementing a new tool, I got this same thing when I started in 2019. I also started with a podcast. I didn't know anybody in North Bay, so I'm just like, I'm gonna invite a bunch of people and learn and meet people. And I talked to this consultant in the mining, and I guess I was younger and dumber and more naive, and I was like, why do these huge mines making billions and billions have like this shitty OS and these technologies? And he's just like, Alex, you don't understand. The tiniest movement, even if the button goes down, even like the tiniest implementation of a new system, if it goes wrong, it's not like a couple thousand, it's like hundreds of millions of losses.
Yeah.
I always keep that in mind, of like not just introducing new stuff, because it's about adoption. I know that's kind of a shitty answer.
No,
but you tell me.
That's a fantastic answer. I really like that. I'll talk about the AI tools, because I've done a lot for building coding infrastructure inside of Claude, and then pushing it to GitHub repos, which for anybody who doesn't know is like iCloud for code, and then setting up shared workspaces. For your AI, it doesn't matter what you choose, but probably choose one, or at least choose one central database. If you are an individual broker, I would probably set up Claude, because it is the most user-friendly, and I would integrate it with everything that you use. Your Google Calendar, your Gmail, your HubSpot. Right now, every major platform has an MCP server, which is like the new version of an API key. So it can talk to the thing and it can do things for you. But Claude, if you're an individual, is a great personal assistant, because once you hook it up to your tech stack, I can say, hey, I'm filming with Alex on Thursday at 10 a.m., set up a calendar reminder, this is the location, pin drop in the location when I get there. You can set up, one thing I love is for customer service for larger companies, you can set up your customer service bots to respond back, or at least draft replies to your customer service inquiries every morning. So this can be like a little time saver, but you're right, it's probably the tool set that you use. I mean, because
I like your answer more though, because that's like I love tools. And
well, a lot of the tools that you use already have open APIs and MCP servers that you can tap into, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just make the tool that you have work better for you. And I think that's the overarching context of AI. It's not vibe code a tool. No one is buying your vibe code a tool, guys. It's building tech on top of tools that people are already using.
I think we'll wrap it up then there.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Cool.
I appreciate it. Thank you, bro.